Hello everyone, hope you're having a lovely day. I wanted to share with you my Quesnel and Barkerville trip. So this is the row that I went in on, and the first stop I made was just straight to Quesnel, and I went to Granville's because I always see the sign, like the Granville sign, on my trips through BC, but I've never been because it's too far away from where I live. So I ended up getting the super awesome Montreal smoked sandwich and the mango milkshake, and it came in a frosted glass. So good. Then I went to Books and Company and I got a book nook and some pins and some hot chocolate that matched the book nook, and so that's going to be for my book nook yarn dress that I'm going to make. And then I went to the Quesnel bakery. It's so pretty in there. I love display cases full of things, and I got this black forest torte, and it was so delicious and so light and fluffy, and they just did a great job. The cherries were great. So super fun. And then the next thing I did was I went to the Quesnel Museum. So I did a little walk through there. I love different museums because they always have so much history, and you can learn a lot about a place through their museum. Lots of really small towns in BC have museums, which I find interesting because it doesn't matter how many people there are. Like, even towns with less than 300 people, they have a museum, and it's so interesting, and I just learn a lot there, and I just go because it's just such a nifty experience. And also, usually they have pins, and I love collecting pins, especially pins of the places where you go, and I find that like pins are more American than Canadian. Like, most American places have them, but it's hard to find them in Canada, so when I do, I'm always so excited because then I can have some pins. And so, yes, the Quesnel Museum does have a pin that says Quesnel, and so I got that for sure. But this is a little walk through the museum. Totally worth it. I definitely suggest you go. I didn't show everything because I want you to experience it for yourself, but so many interesting things. They had a whole vintage car in there, and they had a whole bunch of little, like, crafty stuff, a whole bunch of needlepoint and crochet and embroidery and some dresses. So beautiful. And so I just love seeing that because, you know, all throughout time we kind of do similar hobbies, and I always find looking at old needlepoint and crochet so fascinating. So I love that. Plus, there's a haunted doll here, and that is so much fun. Her name's Mandy, and they have like different, Mandy's been in the news a lot over the years, and so they have different TV shows and news segments and different things on her, and that was just so much fun to see. They say her eyes will follow you around the museum, and so I sat on a chair in front of the TV watching all of her news segments. They had it all on a DVD, and so I got to sat there while she was watching me, while watching all these creepy things that she's done and learning about her. So much fun. But definitely highly recommend going to see Mandy. She's got this fun little crochet hat, and that's super fun. And she's got a little lamb because she has to be away from all the other people, locked in her little box. So sad because she's terror, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, so definitely worth it for that. And they have pictures of her you can buy, and so I got some of those because that's just fun. And I might cross-stitch. I'm getting into cross-stitch, so I want to cross-stitch everything because you put it into the computer and it makes the pattern and tells you what colors you need. It's so much fun. So now I want to cross-stitch all of the pictures that I take. But it takes forever. And so, like, I thought crochet took a long time. This takes, like, cross-stitch takes forever when you're doing a big picture. But still, though, I want a cross-stitch kick, so I want to cross-stitch Mandy. And yeah, so I love reading about her, and I hope to read more and more about her as the time goes on and learn, like, what happened and who she is and all her stories, because that was so fun to see, and I didn't know about her going in, so what a surprise. So much fun. Lots of mining equipment, of course, because it's a mining town, so I got to see all of the old equipment. And of course, the rocks. I love rocks, and I'm not very good at identifying different types of rocks, but I just love looking at them and collecting them. So, so much fun. And one day I'll be able to identify them, not yet, and how they're organized. Oh my goodness, I love organized things, how they're all labeled. So, so pretty, and that's one thing that I do love about museums. I love how organized everything is and how they choose to display things. I don't know, I just, like, you know how I told you I'm cross-stitching now and I've got all the embroidery thread on bobbins. It just makes my heart happy, seeing things all organized and reading about them, and just so, so much fun. So lots of different things in these beautiful, like, plastic covered drawers. What a fun way to display museum items by having them encased in plastic on, like, in drawers. So much fun. Eggs. I don't know if you've seen the David Attenborough documentary section where he did all of, like, the pinned bugs and butterflies in the museum. That was one of my favorite David Attenborough documentaries. Can't remember which one, of course, but definitely one that I remember, because all the organization and categorization is so, so much fun. And they had old Quesnel related school supplies, art supplies, jerseys, things like that. So that was nice to see. Different things that were donated from members of the town. It always makes it more personalized in these museums when they do that. So that was nice. And my favorite exhibit, one of my favorites, was this Titanic exhibit, and they had this hairbrush and mirror from a lady who was a passenger on the Titanic, so that I found super nifty. And then they had this book full of all of, like, just full of interesting things about the Titanic and what happened, and then they had this list of all the passengers on it in the different classes, and so I flipped through the book trying to find passengers that had names similar to mine, like similar to my last name and first name, because, you know, that's just fun to do. So I did that, but such a fun exhibit. Beautiful crochet and knitted and needlepoint items. Just so lovely. So these were some baby items, and now that I'm getting better at crochet, I can tell which stitches they used and replicate them, so that's always super fun. There's this teapot, and you see the little picture in it? So cool. Quilting, so many crafty stuff in this museum, which is so fun. Look at the beautiful fan and all of the crafty supplies and the dolls. My grandma had dolls like those, so they remind me of her. The lace jackety shawl, so, so much fun. So I loved seeing all of that, all the sewing supplies, all the embroidery supplies, and just how beautifully it was displayed. You can tell that they take a lot of care into their displays because it is so beautiful. And then I went outside, and it's not quite outside, it's still through the glass, but you can see it from outside, so that's super fun. And they had a whole bunch of outdoor equipment there, so that was nice to see. And then we're back outside after I got my pin and my pictures of Mandy and my booklet documenting all of Mandy's little adventures and fame through the news. Across the street is the Quesnel World's Largest Gold Pan. and then I went off to search for the pinnacles because I saw a picture of it on Google Maps. I'm like, that'd be kind of fun to see. And I went there, and it's got bear warning signs, and I forgot my bear spray, and and then nobody, like, there was just one set of tracks leading there, and then the tracks ended. It's terrible. So I kept talking and trying to be as bear as aware as I could, knowing that I smelled like a nice chicken nugget. So here's my walk through the woods in search of the pinnacles while I'm nervously talking around. And then they had this gate, but it was really close to the edge. Well, it wasn't that close, but I don't know, I was nervous about it for some reason. So I didn't want to get close to the gate because for some reason I thought I'd just like fall off the edge. I wouldn't, because there's a big gate there, but still. And you gotta see, you could hear the town a lot from over there, which I found interesting that the sound could travel that far. It was so deep, it was over my boots, just crazy. But I persevered and I made it. And so I went like 20 minutes walking into the bush, and then I'm like, that's it, that's enough. And I saw one set of pinnacles, and I'm like, maybe there's more. This is a summer activity when I have my bear spray and I'm not walking like 20 minutes through the woods in the middle of winter while the bears have no food. So I saw them and then skedaddled out of there back to the truck, and then I was off again. I drove all the way to Wells and checked in to my room at the Wells Hotel. So this is what it is. It's just a bed and a bathtub shower and a sink, but it had a robe there because there's a hot tub on the roof, and I didn't think it'd be open because it's like -5 and freezing, but it was so good. And that was super fun. They had an adorable little towel swan. I love towel animals. They're just so cute. And the shampoo and all the soaps were unscented, and usually they're more masculine scented and quite strong in hotels. So that was fun, but like a bit unnerving. I liked it though. It was good. And then I went to a French-Canadian buffet that they had going on downstairs for that weekend. And it was so delicious. I almost died because I had to try everything. And they had so many fun options, but everything was delicious. The only thing I didn't eat was the beans, because I don't like beans. But the rest of it was super awesome. And kudos to the chef for such a great spread, especially way out in Wells. So fun. And then this was my table. They had a whole bunch of pictures on the wall with info and different things, so that was nice. I had breakfast the next day, and it was complimentary with my stay. Lots of fun options. I ended up picking some cereal and then like a bagel and Nutella and an orange. I'm trying to get into tea, and it was peppermint tea. It was good. I'm still not into tea. I'm slowly acclimating myself, but I only drink non-caffeinated tea. And then I went to Barkerville for Ye Olde Christmas in Barkerville. So this was my trip, and I do a little walk around of the park, went to the school and learned some manners and decorum. Very, very fun. And then I went to see all the different exhibits that they had. They had these lovely ladies in there. They were baking gingerbread cookies, and they had like mincemeat tarts with actual meat in them. They had apple cider that was so nice and warm in the cold, so delicious. They're making such great stuff. The apple cider was like a bit tinny just because they're doing it in like a real pot, but it was so delicious and so flavorful. So I got to explore Barkerville for the first time, so that was super exciting. I went into all of the buildings and got to see everything. They had those buildings with like you go in and you look through the doors, but the doors have a window in them and you get to see inside, but you don't get to touch anything. So much fun. And I actually signed up to become a friend with Barkerville, and they had a pin. I got that, of course, because I love pins. Beautiful crochet tablecloth, which I'm going to shamelessly steal through this video because I can see all the stitches they use, so I'll just copy it, but I loved it, so I'm going to take a video of that and then just look at it and copy it based off of that. The first thing that I did in Barkerville actually was take a tour of the town with this actress that was so good at her job. She was a lady from the 1800s that lived in Barkerville, and she just talked about like my time versus your time, and I just love the way she said that, because I've been to different places in different parts of BC, like Ontario forts and stuff like that, where the actors are really in character, but she said my time and your time, and I just thought that was a really good way of going about it. She made it Christmassy and talked about the town burning down, and the town almost burning down again last year when the fire got really close, 22 minutes away, and the whole town would have burned down again, so that would have sucked. But I'm so glad that I got to see it not burn down, obviously. So many fun things to do. So I did all of the Christmas activities I could. So there was the schoolhouse talk, there was the tour, and then this guy read the only Sherlock Holmes Christmas story there was, and he was such a good narrator, and I just had a great time. It was in a church, and there's 2 churches in Barkerville, so I was sitting there waiting in the wrong church, and then I walked to the one next door, and I was about 2 minutes late, which I hated, but hate being late, and I was there way early too, but I'm like, why is nobody here? Oh, that's why, because you're in the wrong one, dummy. It's the one next door. But anyway, I made it to the right one, and he did such a great job narrating the story. So many fun things to look at. They had a building full of mining things, and so of course I went and looked at that, all the different gold in the gold rush. And my favorite part, of course, was the rocks. They had rocks and little dioramas and little sand in like jars. So much fun. So I had a great time doing that. And then they had core samples, which I love core samples. I have great memories of my dad and I. We went way too high up this dirt road in BC, and I caught my first grayling, which was so super fun. We don't get to catch them where we are, so that was such a fun trip. And we stayed in this abandoned, like, geomatics mining surveying cabin site, but all the cabins were torched, so we just kind of went into the least burned down one and put a door up and slept in the tent in the burned down one and just hoped the bears wouldn't come by. But I went around looking at all the torch cabins and all that, and they had a whole bunch of boxes of broken core samples, and of course I love rocks, so rocks in tube form, also very fun with all the different layers. So they were so heavy, I got to touch them, because nobody's there and nobody's coming back, so I got to play with the core samples, and they're so heavy and so smooth, so interesting, and that's one of my favorite memories. I went to this building, and they had a print shop in there, and the guy operating the printing press was such a nice guy, and he talked to me all about the different printing presses they have, and the different rollers, and how heavy they are. So much fun. So I ended up buying these fun postcards. I got a post office one because the post office is very important where I live, and probably important to Wells too, just because it's a small town and that's kind of all we got. So that was so much fun. And a map, of course, because I love maps. And this is the fire display, also very important in really small towns because they're usually run by volunteers, and they kind of do everything. They'll take you to the hospital, they'll get the truck off you when you're squished, and they'll put out the fires. So they're kind of a staple to small towns. Had a bunch of rifles, which is always nice to look at because I like hunting, and just fun to see things that are somewhat related to your hobbies and what you do. They also had some beautiful jewelry and dresses in this building as well, and I like to take videos of all of them because I like to try to recreate them with supplies that I have, or just have different memories of them. So I do a whole little walkthrough of all the things that I want to copy or take inspiration off of, my own little Pinterest, I guess. So, and I also like to take videos of signs because I'll go back and pause them and read them in the future. So that's like, if you're wondering why I'm always taking videos of signs when you can't read them, it's because I go back and pause and read all the signs just so that I can read them later, because it's only one day, so I gotta, save time where I can. So reading I do later after it's done. So many beautiful clothes, and I love sewing dresses, especially vintage dresses, more retro than this old, but it's still beautiful to look at. Pins, of course, because I love pins. I got them from the Eldorado gift shop. I actually found 3 more too. And then I went to the confectionery, got some chili chocolate fudge, so delicious. And I went to the Goldfield Bakery and had this eggnog donut while I was waiting for the horse-drawn sleigh. So fancy, so expensive, but so fancy. And then I got some tea in this fun cup because I'm trying to get into tea. And then I was out of Barkerville. I drove back to Wells, went to Frog on the Bog. So fun to say. I got a pin, of course, and a bear cookie cutter, and then I drove home. So thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.